Well, it's that time of the week again. It's Fox Sports Lab NFL. I'm joined by the man that knows everything. When it's talking about American sport, he knows everything. In particular, we're talking NFL. I'll let him have some other time and some NAB stuff and NBA stuff a little bit later on. NAB, I don't even know what that is. Jaymz Clements, how are you?
I'm well, Matty. I'm just recovering from watching the Toy Story game on the weekend, which was pretty chaos, and then sitting through a absolutely dire Monday Night Football game on Tuesday morning. That was pretty bad as well. But in between, I think we had some really good games, and Week 5 is really set up to be awesome too.
Yeah, Week 5 on paper looks a very interesting round. But we'll just maybe pause here. We're four weeks in, essentially a quarter way through the season. We've got the usual suspects at the top. The 49ers look good. The Eagles, the Bills, after dropping an early game, as they often do, are up and about now. And you've also got the Ravens that are 3-1. Any surprises or teams that are going better than you thought?
Well, obviously Tampa Bay, Matty, because they were an absolute write-off before the season. New Orleans, you came into this year going, they've got the easiest schedule in the entire NFL, but Tampa Bay went, well, that's cool. We've got a vaguely competent quarterback. Our defense will be fine. We'll keep ourselves in it. And we're also playing a bad schedule as well, so we'll be all right. And they're rolling. I think the biggest problem for them, Matty, is that they've got the bye this week. That's a momentum killer. I feel like they should just keep rolling. Can you just roll that into like week 13? Who cares? I don't want my bye right now. But otherwise, I think you mentioned Baltimore as well. They're 3-1. They've already got 2 wins over division foes as well, which is really big because I think they were both on the road too. So later in the season, when it comes to, the absolute must wins, they'll be playing those division foes again, but at home. So hopefully they sort of keep rolling. They've looked really good. Lamar looked incredible last week. They're so banged up and they keep winning. Like, it's incredible to see. And Detroit, I absolutely love Detroit.
3-1.
My beloved Patriots are horrible. I don't want to watch them. I'm just jumping all in on the Lions bandwagon this year. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Gibbs. David Montgomery was an absolute beast last week. So Detroit look really good, and they look like the absolute class of the NFC North after they beat Green Bay. And you have those sort of moments of like, oh, well, their schedule's opening up now as well, right? So they could easily sort of stomp through to the playoffs with a division win. But after a quarter of the year, I mean, you've still got weird stuff at the top of the AFC, right? You've got the Bills, you've got Miami, and then it's just question marks. We mentioned Baltimore. Like, there's just question marks everywhere, though. And I think the biggest tough one that I've seen is the Bengals. They look absolutely horrible, Matty.
Yeah.
It's tough. So I think you got to this quarter point mark and you've learned a little bit. And the best spot to be in, I think, is if you're Chicago. Because at the moment, you have the number 1 and the number 2 picks.
That is so well done by you, because you lead me beautifully into Friday morning's game, and with the Bad News Bears, with that 0-4 start to the season, and taking on Washington at Washington. The spread's only 5.5. To me, as a punter, that looks a bit small.
It really does. And that always worries me, because you're like, well, what do they know that we don't here? And all I know is that Washington at least look vaguely capable and Chicago do not. So you've got Justin Fields, obviously, who, if you're a fantasy player out there in the NFL land, you were like, all right, Justin Fields, big year. Hasn't quite worked out that way. He was all right last week. He didn't cost them the game. That was Matt Eberflus. But this game is really weirdly set up because you've got 2 defenses that give up lots of points. They're both like bottom 4 defenses. But Washington should have actually a bit of quality on that defense. They've been picking at the top of the draft for years now. And they do have a little bit of a scary like defensive line. So I feel like the Washington line at -5.5 is a bit low. You could easily back that up to 6.5 and trust yourself with the touchdown. So I think for this game, I think the run game as well for Washington has been really good. Brian Robinson has been fantastic. I mean, when he's not getting shot in the leg, the dude can run. Like, he's amazing. So I think 60-plus yards for Brian Robinson this week for me against the Chicago defense is a lock. Him to get in the end zone again. He's already got 3 touchdowns on the year. He's looking really good. And then on the flip side, you got Justin Fields. I think he's going to be running for his life away from that pretty impressively big and terrifying Washington defensive line. He's already hit, I think, that 50-yard mark. He got 47 week 3. He had 59 week 1. I think he'd be scampering for his life. So I'd go over 49.5 rushing yards. And DJ Moore, the receiver there in Chicago, hit a bit of nice. He's had a really good couple of weeks. I think he gets in for another touchdown. That'll be his 3rd straight game in a row. So that'd be where I'd be looking for my same game multi for this one. So Washington at the line, Robinson 60-plus in an anytime, Justin Fields to go over 50 yards, and DJ Moore with an anytime touchdown.
All right, that's our same game multi for Friday morning our time. Let's get to your game multi for Sunday football in America Monday morning. We do have an early game if people want to stay up at 12:30 Monday morning, which is in London. It's the Jags taking on the Bills. Don't know about that game, but you mentioned the Bengals earlier. They got a must-win game in Arizona. But the match of the round is the Cowboys at San Francisco. Is that going to be in your same game multi, or is that one where you just want to sit back and watch?
I actually trust the Niners a little bit more than I do. Even so, like someone like the Bills traveling over to London to play at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to take on Jacksonville, who stayed the week after playing Atlanta this week. I trust the Niners defense against this Cowboys defense to cover this line. It's like a -2.5 point line, I think, for the Niners at the moment. We just saw Christian McCaffrey score 4 touchdowns, Matty. 4 in one game. He's probably
going berserk.
Like, personally, I think he's outscored my Pats all season. Like, it's ridiculous. So I actually trust the Niners. Like, Dallas demolished New England this week. New England are just a mess at the moment, so I don't read too much into that. I think the Niners are the absolute quality team, the number one team in the NFL across both conferences. So I trust the Niners -2.5. I'm going to steer clear of that Bills-Jacksonville game just because weird things happen in England all the time. But what I think
the price is a bit low too.
It is. It's a strange one. So I'm just going to steer clear of that one. But there are 3 other ones that I like. So outside of the Niners -2.5 over Dallas, I love Miami against this horrible, horrible, horrible Giants team. We saw Danny Jones just stink it up on Monday Night Football. Miami coming off a loss against Buffalo. I think you'll see Mike McDaniels and co absolutely launch into this Giants team. The line's 12.5, which is always a little bit scary. But as long as that's below 2 touchdowns, I'm okay with that. The Steelers, Matty, the beloved Pittsburgh Steelers in Baltimore. I just talked up Baltimore. Thing is, all they ever do is play tight games. This line is 5.5 in favor of the Steelers. They're getting 5.5 points. They looked very bad last week against Houston, who are one of the fun, sort of weird surprises of the season so far.
Yep.
But Mike Tomlin as a home underdog, you love those words, Matty. You love those words, even against John Harbaugh. The thing is, between these two teams, whoever is the home underdog, they tend to cover that line. It's at a horrifying, it's about 77% of the time they hit the line. Those two teams. So we're going to go Steelers +5.5. And then Denver taking on New York, the Jets, who looked surprisingly competent last week, but that's a trap. We know that Zach Wilson is still Zach Wilson, Matty, and I'm going to trust Denver to cover that 2.5 point line in a bit of a letdown spot for the Jets. So I think if you go Miami -12.5 over the Giants, the Steelers +5.5 over Baltimore, Denver -2.5 over the Jets, and the Niners -2.5 over Dallas, that gets you over $11, and I feel pretty good about that 4-way.
Yes, the Steelers-Ravens game, a very big game in the Campbell household. My son, of course, barracking for the Ravens deliberately to annoy me. Let's finish off with our Tuesday morning game. Not much in the betting between the Packers, who are 2-2, and Las Vegas, who are 1-3. The Raiders really lost their last 3, and they've only snuck in with 1 win over for Denver by a point. So, look, it's not a game I'm keen to bet in, but we're going to do it anyway because it's Monday night footy.
Exactly. I mean, this is still like going to be a big, big, big game because you have 2 of the classic franchises, right? 2 of the biggest franchises in the NFL's history, Green Bay versus the Raiders. The Raiders game last week against the Chargers was very weird. Like, the Chargers kind of got up at the half and then sort of just coasted. And the Raiders pushed them right at the end out of nowhere with a rookie QB, 3rd-string rookie QB. I think we'll get Jimmy Garoppolo back this week. I actually like the Raiders a little bit more in this game. Jordan Love just looked a little bit off last week for Green Bay. So I think the way that I'm going to look at this, we get a bit of a revenge game for Devontae Adams against his old club for Green Bay. Jimmy Garoppolo absolutely loves Devontae Adams. He's looking for him every time he's on the ground. He's like, all right, is Devontae clear by about 6 yards? Of course he is. Bang, get it to him. So an anytime touchdown for Devontae Adams. I think we'll go the total points under because I think this will be a bit of a slog. That sits at about 44.5. That feels about right for me. I feel like this will be about a 20-17 game. And because of that, I'm going to take the Vegas line. So Vegas +1.5 to sneak out a win over Green Bay. It's a weird game to sort of like handicap and sort of look at, but I think the Raiders, this is their season. Like, if they go 1-4, Matty, it's over. Whereas Green Bay have a little bit more wiggle room in the NFC. And I think Raiders, this will be the kitchen sink game for them, and they'll just squeak it out.
All right, mate. Brilliant as always. We're out of time, mate. Enjoy the round.
I will. Don't worry. I absolutely love these late night starts and then the early morning starts as well. It's absolute chaos. The Sunday night 12:30. Oh, brutal.
I'll be watching, I think. All right. Thank you, James. That's Jaymz Clements. And you've been watching Fox Sports Lab NFL Week 5. Enjoy. Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.